Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Live Your Extraordinary Life podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Rios, and this week I have a very special guest, my dear friend, Claudia Noriega Bernstein. Claudia is many things beyond my dear friend. She is a former actress, journalist, author, producer. She's an abundance coach. She's a podcast host. She is a philanthropist. She's a cancer survivor. She's everyone's best friend. She's a wife, and she is a mother to 3 beautiful young women. And I am thrilled that we are able to sit down today and have what I know is going to be a meaningful and engaging conversation that others will be inspired by. So, Claudia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I mean, first of all, I adore you. And I am thrilled to be here. We've been planning this for so long. I'm talking about years.
But it was meant to be that we are having this today.
Yes. And I think the main reason why we haven't recorded an episode is because we have our coffee shot and we already tell each other whatever we need to talk about. So it's okay.
Claudia and I have been on this entrepreneurial journey together. We really ran into each other somewhat by happenstance over a year ago. And it was really interesting because I believe at the time, it might have even been 2 years ago,
Yeah.
Claudia was like on vacation in Italy. I was in the south of France. We were looking at each other's photos. We realized we're both podcast hosts. She's an author. I was an aspiring author. We had all these things in common. And then we realized we knew a lot of the same people and we're both coaches. So it was just meant to be. And if this isn't the cherry on top, Claudia hails from Lima, Peru, which for those of you who know me well, know I'm married to a gentleman from Lima, Peru. So we just had all of these synchronicities and we were so incredibly drawn to one another. I have to say, I know a lot of people, Claudia knows even more people, and I consider her a sister on this journey. She's a soulmate. You
Yeah.
find them in different people and in different experiences. And she is somebody I know I can call day or night and we just connect. And she knows she can do the same. So,
And I think that's the beauty of it, actually, because you meet people sometime and yeah, you click, and you have a friendship or whatever. But I think you and I have qualities, and I'm not patting myself in the back or patting yourself in the back because this, what I'm saying is the truth. They are women and they're women. And these are the kind of women that if you need anything about work or whatever, I'm going to be generous with you. And the same thing happens from you. If I call you and say, Michelle, I don't know how to do this. Oh my God, I went through hoops to learn it. Let me teach you. We help each other. For me, I have it in my studio. It says we can only fly and we embrace each other. And those true meanings, those true friendships are the most valuable for me.
1,000%. And, I just want to stay there for a moment because it's unfortunate that over history, women have been led down this path. It wasn't always this way. I think there was another moment in time where women were in different places of power where the world just operated differently. But what Claudia is talking about, I know you all are aware that there are women who have scarcity mindsets. And so they think, well, if I have a seat at the table and I give you a seat at the table, somehow that diminishes my seat at the table. And what Claudia and I are 1,000% about, because we've experienced this firsthand, there is no lack, there is no scarcity, which feeds so nicely into the fact that Claudia is not only a miracle manifester, she is hands down one of the best ones I know. She's an abundance coach and she helps women really find their potential and understand that the mindset has to change before their reality can change. And her podcast is fascinating. It's called Don't Shrink to Fit. And if you know Claudia and you've met her, you realize she's a bigger than life personality. So there's no shrinking in the world of Claudia. You have to rise in the presence of Claudia. She just lifts you up. But Claudia, I want to share something that just happened. with
Mm,
our audience, with you, because it just kind of goes to the testament of the kind of person you are. But for our listeners, when Claudia first got on the call a few minutes ago, she shared with me that a dear friend of hers passed away unexpectedly last night, and she hasn't slept that well.
mm,
And we talked a bit about it. And, I asked, do you want to record it another day? And she said, no, this is real life and we're going to keep going. And it's important that we show up authentically as we are with what's really happening in our lives. We don't sugarcoat things. And so I'm so grateful for you to just be here and to be vulnerable and to be you and to help share with our audience. It's okay. Show up in your lives so that you can just live. One of the things that I just took away from this experience we were talking about for a few minutes is you don't know the day or time. And there were so many people sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment, stars to align, or what have you, to move forward with their dreams. And you can't wait. You got to jump in the arena because you don't know. And we're here to experience this full life. It didn't say a perfect life, it was a full life.
yeah.
So thank you,
Yeah.
Claudia.
And you know what? To piggyback on what you said, I oftentimes hear people put a by when I'm going to be happy
Mm.
instead of by when I'm going to achieve A, B, or C, and I'm going to be happy while I'm achieving those things. They put that day to when they're going to be happy. It's like, I bought this dress, but I'm going to wear it when. I bought this bottle of champagne and I'm going to open it when. I'm going to go to this beach when I lose so much weight. Listen, you don't know.
You don't.
You have this moment right now. So, for the listeners that are holding their money or holding their possessions, so one day they can do whatever it is they want to do. If you know when that day it is, then you're losing money. That should be your job. And you should be telling everyone when that day is going to be because we don't know it.
No. So break out the good china on an everyday Tuesday and pop that bottle of champagne and live fully. Claudia, I didn't ask you this at the start of the show, so it's on me. But I'm going to ask you now. What does it mean to you to live your extraordinary life?
I think an extraordinary life is a life that you live to the fullest in your own terms, in your own terms, because it's not for everyone. You got to have a sense of fulfillment. You have to pursue your passion. You have to be in the moment. Of course, you have to overcome your challenges, right? But most of it, I think for me, an extraordinary life is about being impressed with what it is,
Yeah.
being in it, being happy with what it is. And I'm not saying not hoping for more, but really savoring what is and being present. I live an extraordinary life every moment that I am aware of my extraordinary life.
Yeah.
Because my dad used to say, happiness is not a straight line.
Mhm.
And it's not even an up and down life, are little dashes in your life. And when you have more of those little dashes in your life than you have of sorrow, of unhappiness, of worry, of stress, then you are living an extraordinary happy life.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
You know, you and I subscribe to the same philosophy that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And
Mhm,
one of the things that really dawned on me over the last several years is that living an extraordinary life is not a guarantee of the lifestyles of the rich and famous. What it is an offer, an opportunity to really live fully. And to
mhm,
live fully means to embrace the dark with the light, the good
right.
with the bad, the
Mhm.
grief with the joy, the pain with the happiness. It's the full spectrum of what it means to be human. And if we
Right.
can show up and realize it's not that the universe is conspiring against you because you have a day that doesn't go your way, but rather step back and observe and realize all of these things that are happening for you so that you can have a full human experience.
Yeah. 100%. Sometimes I see life like going to a buffet.
Mm,
We get to choose and pick, right? It's not that as much as I feel that God has my agenda, I am still going to get to that agenda sooner or later, depending on the choices I'm making. But there
be
is
a
no escape,
co-pilot of your life for sure.
right? There is no escape from the
You're the
agenda.
sous chef, to go on the buffet analogy.
So you can pick, whatever it is. And sometimes you want to pick something that perhaps is not the best thing for you. But then again, if you stop and pause and say, I wonder what this is coming to my, what is there for me? What is this experience going to teach me? Immediately that shift happens
Yeah.
because it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. So it's like, okay, wait, I wanted to be early to this meeting. And you get up early and you get dressed and everything happened. And suddenly you spill your coffee. Be grateful for that because you really don't know if that spilling of the coffee is saving you from an accident or you had to be home to pick up that phone and get that message from somebody. There is always a reason. So I personally think that one of the secrets of happiness is to adapt, not to settle, but to adapt of what life is throwing your way. And then see how you can get something out of that, regardless if it's the good, the bad, or the ugly. But let's see what can we rescue from there and make my life a little more extraordinary in this moment that I.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. You're probably one of the most authentic people I've ever met. And you are an open book. And we've talked extensively about our backgrounds with one another.
Mhm,
So I know a lot about you.
mhm,
I would love for you to talk a little bit about, and Claudia has lived not just one extraordinary life, many extraordinary lives with a level of intensity that most people have no idea. Not only did she come out into the world really at a very tender age of 17. I think about this. My son's 17, and she was thrust into the limelight as one of the actresses in one of the most beloved telenovelas of the time, Carmen. And she's on every magazine cover and she's being interviewed and she's out in the world and doing advertisements and all of this. But then she transitions to behind the scenes. She becomes a producer. She becomes a journalist. Her articles have appeared in multiple places. This is not a typical individual. This is a multi passionate, multi talented, an incredibly authentic person who sort of sees the opportunities and jumps at them. She's also somebody, and I'm going to share this because I found it fascinating. She's somebody who has been around a lot of abundance in her lifetime and walked away when it wasn't in alignment for her, which a lot of people are unable to do because comfort is often what people seek and security and stability over alignment, over authenticity. And I know that was the impetus for you to get divorced from your first marriage and take three young girls under the age of 5, hit the reset button in a new country with no money. And to know Claudia, you will know that she was not going to stay down and out for very long, but she really created an extraordinary experience of life, even in those difficult moments for her daughters who had no idea how hard things were, and has built this amazing life for herself and example for her three beautiful daughters of how to show up for yourself in your life. Talk to me a little bit about that because I'm fascinated. We're both women of a certain age. We know a lot of women, and we know a lot of women who are stuck in relationships that really don't resonate for them, but for one reason or another, choose to
Mhm.
stay because they do have the beautiful home and it's comfortable and they have the pool and they have 2 vacations a year and they're in a certain level of affluence. And that seems hard to give up, even in the face of knowing that they're not living in alignment with who they are, nor are they probably feeling the love they really deserve. Talk to me because I know you work with a lot of women who are in those types of circumstances. Talk to me about your own experience of being able to or knowing when this isn't going to work. This is not the way I want to raise my girls. This isn't an alignment for me. I need to do something drastic and make a big change.
I am going to share this with you. But before I want to tell you something that my daughter sent to me 2 days ago. She is working in Miami. She's starting from zero. She had a career here. She was thriving, but she decided to walk away from a relationship that in paper looked perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah, imperfect, in paper looked perfect. And she chose to walk away because that wasn't what she dreamed for her, even though the rest of the world would think that that was a perfect life. And she said to me, I am keep on going because I know it's possible because I watch you. And
Mm.
I don't want to disappoint you, number one, but I don't want to disappoint myself because I know that if you were able to do it, I can do it. And that for me was like, I am a billboard for her, and that's my purpose. Everybody else that see me as a billboard is amazing. But that my daughter can say this to me, it's just, I don't need anything. And it is hard when you are in a place where everything looks good on paper. I had the big house, I had the cars, I had a loving husband. He was a great dad. We had amazing friends. So from the outside, I was living the movie. And coming from a very abusive relationship in my country where I ran away from, literally, this was like, I couldn't believe that was my life. Like I could pinch myself and say, I have this, the house in the prayer house, in
Right. A
Charles
fairy tale from the outside
yeah, I have my three girls and I'm gonna slow motion to the kitchen, and my hair is gonna blow in the air. Because this is so incredibly perfect and beautiful that, oh my God, I'm so grateful, right? And one day I was diagnosed with cancer in my thyroid. And I was so afraid of kind of breaking the magic that I was living that I went to the doctor by myself. And this is something that not a lot of people know. And I went to the doctor and I didn't tell my husband, I didn't tell anyone. I got an appointment. And the reason why was because we were getting a life insurance. And the guy touched my neck and he says, you have a little nodule there, but it might be just like a gland or something like that. You should get it checked. And I said, okay. But I started thinking, oh, I mean, I should go get it checked. So I got my appointment. I go to the doctor and the doctor said to me, this is something else. We're going to do a biopsy. Still didn't say, don't say anything to anyone. I called one of my friends and I said, I'm going to go get a biopsy. You want to come with me? She's like, why you didn't say anything to him? And I'm like, I don't want to get anybody worried until I know exactly what it is. Right. Protecting that fantasy life, right? That I was having the opportunity and blessing to live. So anyway, They put a huge needle on my neck. They took a sample, and then they told me it was cancer. And then you see this, you hear the C world, and immediately everything goes dark, right? Like you even go to the process. I even went to the process of being angry at God. I'm like, why did you show me all this if you're going to take it from me? I would rather you not giving me this life, because now I know what I'm missing, what I'm not going to have. I'm not going to see my kids grow. And I went to that place. Everything was dark. And then I said to myself, wait a minute. I don't want anybody raising my kids. I'm not going to give up on myself. That's not an option. So I went and got my surgery. I went and had my surgery, and they put my stitches on. I was a manager for my husband's show. So for a couple of days, I couldn't go. So I called him and I said, hey, could you please bring me a gallon of milk on your way back? Because I wasn't able to drive. I was taking the painkillers because of my scarf, whatever. And I hear a noise in the middle of the night. I think maybe it's him coming home, but then I hear the door. And I am like, maybe somebody broke into the house. So I go to my daughter's room, my oldest daughter, and she was asleep. And I look in the window. His car has been in the shop, and he was driving my convertible, and there was a girl sitting in the passenger seat. So I went, like, in disbelief for a minute, because you want to believe the life you have. You want to believe that that life is real. You want to believe that, okay, I have cancer, so what else can happen? Like, this cannot be true. But then again, I am a very visual person, so I needed to find out really what was happening. So I went downstairs. We had a living nanny. So that what gives you the idea of my lifestyle at that moment. I had a big house, a pool, 3 cars parked outside, a living nanny. I got in my car and I said, first, I'm going to go see if there is anybody in the office. And we had an apartment that was an office. So it was on the second floor. So I get to the place and I see my car parked there. And I'm like, oh, maybe he needed to do something. Because you're still in denial, right? You're still thinking, that cannot be. I know this person, or at least I think I know this person. So I get there and I said, I'm going to park my car far away, just in case. Because there is that side of you that said, what if, right? Okay. Park my car like a couple of blocks away. When I start walking back, started to rain. So I am soaking wet.
From cancer surgery.
I had my stitches. I was in pajamas. And my hair is like glued to my face. So I hope there is nobody there. But then again, I'm thinking I'm going to see them sitting, if I find somebody there in the living room chatting. I have no idea what I was going to expect. My mind didn't even want to wander. So I get there, I open the door, and I go up the stairs, because it was those kind of places that they have the garage underneath, and then they have the place up there. So I go up the stairs and I hear them, and they're having sex. And I'm standing on the top of the stairs thinking, okay, I hear them. I should sleep. And then there is another side of my brain that is telling me, no, you need to really see it, because there is going to be an argument here. It wasn't, this is not what you hear, da 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 da. Just do it. So I remember clearly me standing against the wall, collecting courage to turn around and be in the frame of the door. So I did. And he was laying down, and this girl was sitting on top of him. In one of the motions, I guess, his head was lifted and he see me like a freaking ghost standing in the frame of the door, soaking wet, in disbelief of what I was seeing. Yet another betrayal, yet another lie in my life, yet something else taken away from me, yet not what I thought it would be. I mean, mind you, my first husband, which I was totally pushing to marry him, gave me a slap on my honeymoon. So that was like, you know, what's the plan here? Okay.
Where
Am
do
I
we
going?
go from here?
Yeah. And we're going to believe that everything is great and then boom, something happened. And I'm experiencing the same thing now in a totally different scenario. I was happy. Everything was great. And now boom, this. Why? So I look at him. He look at me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I didn't have anything to answer to that because this gorgeous 19-year-old with the hair like Victoria's Secret turned around and literally, Michelle, I thought that was in slow motion, the way she turned around and looked at me. And she said, "Who is she?" And I still quiet in disbelief of, I was watching a movie. For me, that was a movie because that was not real. And I'm thinking to myself, I am going to wake up any minute here. This is just a dream. So there is a side in my brain, the logical side of my brain telling me, hey, this is just a dream. You're going to wake up. Probably you had some fear and this is not real. But then he said, the girl asked, who is she? And then he said, she's my wife. And those words didn't match with me. Those words were not real to me. I couldn't believe that he was saying, that's my, how am I your wife when you still in somebody else sitting on top of you? How is that going to make sense to anyone? So in that moment was a wake up call for me. And I said, you can pick up all your stuff tomorrow. That's all I said. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't call her names. I just said that, turned around, went downstairs, took my convertible because that was non negotiable. She was not going to sit in my convertible again. You already took enough from me. You're not taking anything else. And as ridiculous as that might sound, in that moment, that was my,
Like the last shred of dignity.
that's it.
My car.
It's
Oh,
my
my
car, you know? So I got in my car and I went home and I got in the shower and I cried. I remember me sitting in the floor in the shower, holding my knees and crying until I didn't have more tears. And I didn't even care about my scar in my neck. If the doctors told me, make sure it doesn't get wet, well,
Right.
sorry, it did get wet. And I sat there and then the next morning, I got boxes. I packed everything. My kids asked me, Mommy, because they were little, and they're, Mommy, what are you doing? And I said, your dad is going to take a long trip. So he needs all his stuff. And they helped me put the stuff away. Because one thing that I always did was making it a game. So it was never, I can't believe your dad did this. You don't know what a piece of whatever you no, I'm like, my job is to protect these girls. So I am going to protect this girl no matter what. Even if I have to protect them from my own feelings, I'm going to protect them. So we packed everything. And then, of course, all that happened. I stood in front of the rooms the following night, not knowing what I was going to do, not knowing where I was going to go. I mean, you have to understand that I was working with him, living with him. All my eggs were in one basket, which I always advise my clients, never have all your eggs in one basket. And that has nothing to do with the trust or the relationship you might have with your partner, whoever your partner is, because you are you. You're not half of anyone. You are a whole. And if you don't see yourself as a whole, as an enough, then you're going to look for that other person to compliment you. And that's what I did. I mean, I didn't know how I like my ex. I tell my husband now, I know how I like my ex. I used to emulate. Oh, you like it scrambled? Me too. Oh, you like it poached? Me too. That was me, people pleaser. And I know that as a trauma response because when you grow up not feeling enough, that's what you do. You please everybody because you want to be liked. You want to be accepted. You want to be loved. You want to feel worthy of whatever that person wants to give you.
And what you're saying, though, it's universal. It doesn't matter what your experience was specifically. It could have been that you grew up with parents that were just not available to you. It could be that you understood information about your family and it made you feel less than, or whatever. Somebody said something to you that made you feel like you were not enough. I mean, the world at a certain point in time does that to everyone without adding family and childhood traumas, which everybody has to one degree or another. And the need to go and seek that external validation outside of ourselves is probably for me what I consider right after the what do I want? Because most people don't know it. Probably the most important thing that we collectively need to work on is that internal inherent self worth, because most of us grew up looking for it outside of ourselves.
Yeah. And one of my biggest lessons in this thing was if I know my value, I will stop giving discounts. That's it.
Claudia.
I will not shrink to fit. I will not be what the other person needs me to be so she or he doesn't feel threatened, doesn't feel less, doesn't feel triggered. I am going to be my full self with everything that makes me. And the moment that I really had to make a decision was we sold the house and I moved to a tiny little apartment. So my life changed 180. I moved to a little apartment where my kids were in a bunk bed and a mattress in the floor. That was the room. From each of them having the rooms, from each of them going to private schools, from each of them having a whole different life, limited to and blah, 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 what it was so in at that time too. We're going to go to Target to get an outfit now, or we're going to do different things. We're going to go to the park and have a picnic because I didn't have money to buy groceries. So let's have a picnic and each of you get a Happy Meal, which is $1 each, and try to make it fun. You ask my kids, how was your childhood? And my kids said it was amazing because they don't ever remember me making them pay for the consequences of decisions their parents made.
Right.
Him by doing what he did, and me by choosing not to look the other way.
Right.
Their life could have been totally different. But me seeing those girls in those bunk bed and the mattress in the floor, instead of making me feel small or like a failure or scared, even though I had 1,000 times where I was scared, but instead of making me feel in that moment all those feelings, I felt empowered because I said to myself, I am going to be a billboard for these girls. I am going to be a billboard of possibility. I'm going to teach my daughters that your circumstances don't define you.
Oof.
And whatever it is that you want to do is to you. If it's to me, it's up to me. Period. I don't need any external help. I don't need any external favor. I am a masterpiece. I know what I'm capable to do. And the only thing I have to do is unpack my gifts. We all have gifts. We just unpack them or unwrap them at different times. But they're there. They're available for you. You sometimes only need somebody who kind of point it out, and say, hey, but you do have this gift. Why don't we get curious about it? Let's see what we can do with this. So for me, that was my why. The how, no idea how I was going to make it happen. But I had a clear why. And I had an idea in my head of the life that I wanted. That was my billboard. That was my billboard. I was their billboard, and my vision was my billboard. So I needed to allow that version of me that was living that life guide me and make those decisions for me and trust the process that eventually that was going to be available and I was going to be able to live that life and I was going to be okay.
All right, I want to pause it there for a minute because I want to go back and understand, because this is a really big piece where people get stuck. How you went from being a people pleaser, which is a telltale sign that somebody's self-worth is not whole. They're not getting it from themselves. And how do you go from that experience to being so empowered and realizing your worth? Because that, I think, is the journey that so many people need to go on and are afraid to go on. They stay in the, I'm going to play small, I'm going to play it safe, I don't want to rock the boat, and I need them to love me. And so they're going to be a chameleon for whoever's in the room, right?
Right.
How do you go from that experience to really recognizing that your worth is so inherent? There was nothing you needed to do, there was no one you needed to please. You didn't have to actually do anything to become worthy. You were worthy the minute you arrived here in this
Mhm.
world. How did you make that transition? What was happening? Was it that the circumstances required so much of you that it really was like a light switch going off, an awakening of like epic proportions of like, this is just the way it's going to be? Or was there more of a journey that you had to go on to get to that place?
I think I am still in my journey, if you ask me, because number one, I am a sponge and I love to learn and I refuse to believe that I know everything I need to know. And I bought to my daughters a fake diamond that is some like a paperweight. And I said to them, not all the diamonds are the same. They're all different, but they all shine. And you are a diamond and you're the whole package and you are worthy and you don't need anybody to tell you that. You need to believe it. I think the first step for me was, and I remember clearly watching at something on TV of this little kid that was trying to walk and he kept on falling and was trying to walk and keep on falling. And again, the kid was like grabbing the couch. I am standing up and falling in her diaper again. And I said to myself, what that kid has that I don't? And the answer was fear. He doesn't have fear. And so I decided that I was going to call fear, face everything and rise.
I love that.
I mean, I have seen it somewhere. I mean, I'm not the author, but I have seen it somewhere. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be one of my mantras. So fear and excitement feels the same in our body. The same thing that you feel when you're excited about something, somehow your heart is racing and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You feel the same way when you're afraid. So my first step was recognizing the fear and accepting it and say, it's okay. I got this. Fear, you need to trust me. And Claudia, you need to trust me because we're in this together. We're a team. So we're going to figure this together. We don't have the answer, but we're going to figure this together. Listen, I have times, Michelle, when I didn't have money to feed my daughter.
I know.
I didn't. I would open my fridge and I would see the little orange box that make the fridge smell good. And that was it.
Hammer
That
baking
one.
soda,
Yeah, that one. That was it. I didn't have
baking
anything.
powder.
So in those moments, I journal a lot. I learn and I taught myself because at that time the coaching wasn't something available. So I would go to the library because it was free. So when my kids were in school finally, and I will have a day off, or I will go on Saturday when they will go with their dad, I will go to the libraries and I will sit and read and learn what other people that knew more than me could teach me about myself and of finding myself, because I knew that I had the strength. I already had had a relationship and I already had the guts to run away from that.
Yeah.
So I knew that I had it in me. And this is the thing, life shows us those powers that we have, but we brush them off. I mean, you see a woman lifting a car because their kid is underneath. You
Absolutely.
know that strength is in you. You just need to tap into that to get it. Because if I go right now and try to lift my car, I definitely am not going to be able to do it. But God forbid one of my children are underneath, I'm not only going to lift the car, I'm going to probably toss it in the park, because that's how perfect this machine that God gave us is.
Right.
So,
And you have divinity running through you. So here's the
yeah,
thing. Like when you recognize that, what is it that it's actually biblical that Jesus said? If you had the faith of mustard seed, you can move mountains. If you only knew the divinity that ran through you, oh, the things you could do.
that has been my journey. Do I get afraid at 57? 100%. But I shift sooner. I don't sit in the fear. So when somebody said to me, I'm stuck, let's talk first about where were you before you were stuck. Let's see what brought you to this stuck. Because people sometimes feel stuck because they have outgrown their current situation. So they don't know where to go. People get stuck because they have fear of changing. They are so comfortable in their misery sometimes. I mean, they furnish the freaking misery. You know, it's like, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to have a little TV and my couch, and I'm going to be comfortable in my misery. People, they have lost hope. They don't see a possibility for them. But before you feel that stuckness, you were okay. You were not born stuck. So
Yeah.
let's go back and figure it out. I want to talk about your childhood. I am not your therapist. We're not trying to figure out what your trauma responses are. That's somebody else that went to school for that and have the tools to help you. I am just curious. And in my sessions, curiosity is always present. Let's get curious. I had a client the other day saying to me, I'm helping this person that is staying in my house, and we were supposed to be together on Sunday, and now he canceled me, and I make my special sauce, and I felt so disappointed because he never came, and he went to hang out with somebody else, and I felt left out. And then he came and he said to me, you just feel sad because you like to help people so they can love you, and then you feel rejected. She said that this friend said that to her. And I, blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, let me interrupt you for a minute. Do you feel that statement is true? Let's start from there. And she's like, well, I like to help people. And I go, why? And she's like, because when I was younger, nobody helped me. And I go, that's beautiful that you want to do that. Now, do you have an agenda? What do you mean? Do you help people because you want people to love you? You help people because you want people to be grateful, or you want them to say, oh my God, this person is so wonderful. What's your agenda? She goes, that's not agenda. I really was happy to help him and whatever. And I said, so why that statement bother you so much?
Why did it trigger you?
Because when something trigger you, instead of you being triggered, you should be grateful, because it's like somebody in the universe, or the universe itself, is highlighting this for you. It's telling you, hey, wait, for you to go to the next level, you got to figure this out first. So thank you for pushing my buttons. I am so grateful, Michelle, for everybody that told me no, for everybody that slammed the door in my face, for everybody that said, you're not going to be able to make it. Somebody said to me last week, you know what, Claudia, you had an incredible life. You had an abusive husband for 5 years. You ran away. The second one cheated on you. You had cancer 3 times. I mean, you could have been an alcoholic and nobody would have come to you and say, I can't believe you're an alcoholic. They will actually say, well, of course she's an alcoholic. You see her life? You see what she went through? But then again, that's a choice.
Yeah.
You make that choice. You can take the easy road by all means. And no one would say anything. But can you look at yourself in the mirror?
Yeah.
Because who cares what the other one people say?
I'm not
What
living
I
in.
care is what I say about myself. And I like myself. I'm proud of myself. I empower myself every day. I go, you know what? You're a freaking badass and you're going to make this happen because you have what it takes. I didn't talk to me like that 30 years ago. 30 years ago was like, OMG, what am I going to do and where am I going to start from? But that's something you gain with time. And you know how you gain it? By having the courage of getting to know yourself and love yourself and accept yourself and embrace yourself and tell yourself, we got this, and how excited it is that we're afraid.
Yeah.
Because that's the only difference is that when you are afraid and you embrace the afraid feeling, it becomes an adventure.
1,000%, Claudia. And I think so many people think, oh, self discovery, getting to know myself, going within, that's for people who are lost. And you're like, well, how are things working out for you right now? Because the process of getting to know yourself at that deep level, it's not a one and done. It's not like, oh, I did that when I was a teenager or when I was in college. Let me just enlighten you. It's something that is an ongoing process because personally, my philosophy is you step into different levels of authenticity when you have the courage to get to know yourself at a deeper level. And you
Mhm.
never get to a place where you're done. I'm in my most authentic space. No, you're more authentic maybe than you were 5 years ago. Great. But there's another level. And I don't think we ever get to the Donkey Kong level of winning the game until you transition. I think that then, no, right? Then there may be some more enlightenment beyond what you were able to glean in your human mind about your true essence and your authenticity. But
And take responsibility. My story could have been this. I was married, my husband cheated on me, and yeah, this is why I am in welfare. That could be my story.
yeah,
I choose not to, but that's a choice I made. That was a choice I made. And the other choice I made was, what is my responsibility? And people will say, what do you mean? The guy cheated on you. I go, I know. But then again, let's go back to before he did that. Were there red flags? Did I notice anything? Did I get curious? So you know what? After a couple of years of us being divorced, I dropped my daughters on a Saturday, early in the house that was supposed to be mine, in the house that we were going to buy, in the house that he put under his father's name so he wouldn't be part of the divorce. So I felt twice betrayed and I dropped them and I started driving and I broke down. And I was already a couple of years divorced, but I was not healed.
yeah,
I was going, 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 going. And I parked in the corner. I broke down and he saw it from his humongous corner front amazing yard that my car was parked in the corner. So he walked to the corner and knocked on my window and said, are you okay? And I was crying. And I was the person who never cried. That is always together. So he opened the door and gave me his hand to walk out of the car. And I walked out of the car and I just looked at him and he gave me a hug. And he said, I am sorry I broke your heart. And I said to him, I am sorry I didn't see the signs. I took responsibility for what it was my responsibility, for what I didn't do. Because if I would have known that he had that need, then maybe we could have handled that need differently. But I didn't. So it wasn't just his responsibility. I had to acknowledge mine. And that day was the beginning of one of my dearest friends I ever had. And when he died, I was extremely sad. And I'm still sad because I miss that crazy idiot, you know?
But
And then the wrong choice. And he did regret the rest of his life. He had two marriage afterwards, but I mean, whatever. He had a beautiful boy after that. I love him very much. And in a way, I inherited after he passed, but it took for me to own it. It's so easy to point the finger. They did this to me. Nobody's doing anything to you, first of all. They're doing it to themselves. You just a consequence. You are not the innocent bypasser of that. I was having a life with him, and I should have also paid attention to what this person was feeling, the voids he had in his life. And I didn't. So that's my responsibility. I was part of the problem.
first of all, congratulations, because being able to have that level of self-awareness, I think, is such a gift that a lot of people don't give themselves, right? They want to stay bitter and angry, thinking that actually is protecting them and it's actually taking up way too much rent and space in their heads. But as much as you want, or I want to point the finger at the ex and go, bad guy, how amazing that he was able to get to a place where he was part of the healing process with you. I mean, we have to recognize that, yeah, we make mistakes, but when you are willing to rectify them, to allow forgiveness and to move forward for healing to take place, you got to recognize that and say, what a gift. What a gift that day that he came out to the car and initiated that exchange that allowed you two to move forward in a new way.
He did had a beautiful heart and he was extremely talented, but he had demons. He had demons that I didn't know he had because he didn't tell me and because I wasn't curious enough. But I think the main reason was that we both had the same vision for our girls. We both wanted the same for them. And we both knew right from the get go what role we were going to play, being married or not being married. Listen, when he passed away, we had a celebration of life here. My current husband was there. My ex husband used to come and have coffee in my house. They were friends because that was also my doing. And I'm not saying that like taking credit, but my effort to show my current husband the importance of him embracing my ex husband, that there was no reason for him to hate my ex husband. He was part of my life, and now you are part of my life, but he's still in my life because he's the father of my kids. So we all have the same purpose, the same vision. The most important thing here is create kids that don't have to learn to manipulate by telling story to one parent and telling story to the other parent. Our goal was to create an environment of safety for the family where we can communicate, where if Ed, my current husband, would not feel like having visitors that day, me being able to tell my ex-husband, hey, I know we had planned to do something today, but it's not a good day today and he's having an off day. So let's do it on Sunday. And him say, sure, no problem. We were friends. But I have parties here with my ex-sister-in-law, with my current sister-in-law, with my ex-husband, and people will go, ex-husband. And I'm like, and they were like, God, I can't believe it. And I'm like, why? Because we made it not normal and now you're seeing it as normal because society makes it as not normal. You're supposed to hate your ex-partner. How could you hate your ex-partner if this is a person who was part of your life that you loved at some point, that you were totally infatuated with, that you went to the extent of marrying him and having children with him, and now you hate him? You don't hate him. You hate that part of him that is not aligned with what you thought you were marrying. But
Right.
that's not him. That's a part of him. So when you're able to separate that, when you're able to distinct that, then it's easy
Yeah.
because it's not that you're not hating that soul. You know, I always knew that he had a beautiful heart, and that heart never changed. What changed was the choices he made.
Right.
Those choices were not good.
Well, and the pain is really what makes us angry. To go through pain and to feel the heartbreak and the hurt, really the issue, right? The anger and the feelings of animosity that we have isn't because you actually hate the individual. It's because there's pain that the
Right,
person has, and you haven't figured out how to cope or process it. You're sitting,
right,
right?
right. But it's the purpose. Like I had a client yesterday that had an issue with her mom because her mom treated her whatever the way she treated her. And I said to her, please tell me, did you ever feel, although you had a very conflicted relationship with your mother and she had done horrible things to you, tell me if you ever feel that your mother did that with the full and whole intention to hurt you? And she said, no. I said, okay, so you have a mom who makes terrible choices, and the consequences of those choices are hurting you. But she didn't wake up in the morning and said, let me tell you what I can do today to hurt this bitch. No, she didn't. So how about we start taking a step back with every relationship we have? We stop taking it personal and we start seeing the intention of that person.
Mm. I think that's such an amazing piece of advice because, and we talk about this in business, you cannot take things personally. People are going to behave and act the way they do, not because of you, but because of themselves.
Right,
And the more we are aware of this, the more we can be the observers rather than the protagonists in the drama.
right,
The more we
right.
can actually move forward in our lives, recognizing, oh, that's why that's happening. It's not actually because of me. Those
And
are our
the
own
intention.
self doubts and our own insecurities that make us think that it's about us.
Because we expect. I don't know if you ever heard this that when people said some people are pint and some people are gallows.
Mm.
If you are in a relationship with a pint and you're expecting that person to give you a gallon, you're going to be disappointed the whole time because the pint is giving you already everything they got. They don't have any more. It's not that they don't want to give it to you. They
They
just
don't
don't
have
have
it.
it. And the pint doesn't mean that he is less than the gallon. Their capacity is less than the gallon. But that pint can be an amazing, brilliant, generous Mother Teresa kind of person and still a pint. It's not that they're a pint, it's that they're a pint for you, for what you are expecting.
It's an alignment issue at the end of the day.
Exactly. That person might be a gallon for somebody else, but he's a pint for you, and you're expecting that pint to give you a gallon. It's not going to happen. It's not possible.
You know, going back just for a minute about why we get so triggered when people do things that we interpret as they did this to me and they hurt me. I often, now we're older, more mature, we've lived some life
Mhm.
experiences, recognize that's often because we don't have the ability in that moment to love ourselves. We're filled with so much insecurity that when somebody does something that is hurtful, there's nothing to hold on to. You don't have that own inner strength of, I love myself enough to know this is about them, not about me. But
Mhm.
somebody who is with the capacity to love themselves and have that self worth is going to smell that activity or behavior a mile away and say, something's up with you. And they're
Mm.
not going to think it's about them at all. They're gonna
Right.
feel secure in who they are and realize, "Yeah, there's something wrong with you. I feel very comfortable with who I am. There's something going on with you that you need to
Sorry.
work on," right?
Right, but I think it has to do with your level of healing. If you have healed those things, then those things don't affect you anymore. This is why it's so important to go through your feeling. This is why I always tell my clients and I remind myself constantly, if I am feeling certain way, let's see why. Which buttons has been pushed so I can work on that and I can heal. So the next time that something happened similar, it won't affect me. We get affected because that feeling is familiar. It brings us back to that other time in our life where we felt that way. So it's like if you have a wound and you have a scab and you take the scab off, you are not gonna heal that wound because you keep taking the scar off until eventually it's gonna dry up and you're probably gonna be in your 70s when that happens. But if you take the time to really notice and acknowledge that feeling, take responsibility for your part in that feeling and really dissect the feeling, live through the feeling, embrace the feeling, be miserable with the feeling, and then say, okay, why this is bothering me? What is this reminding me of? When this started, and have that work with yourself. You need to have 10 people in a circle. You don't have to do that. You get a journal, you write it down. Of course, having a coach that can guide you, make you pay attention, put the highlight on that is super helpful. But if you don't have that possibility, then just take the time to learn from yourself. Find out why am I feeling this way? What that trigger me? What that trigger me? I tell my kids this all the time. They'll go, my sister is this. And I go, do you think she had the intention to hurt you? No, but she said that. Okay, then. Why do you think she said that? Well, because she didn't think. There you go. She didn't think. I mean, I told you I had a situation like that early in the morning,
Yeah.
with one of my girls. And I'm like, sweetheart, why did you say that? Because it's true. That doesn't mean you have to say it. Do you know how many true things I have in my head and I don't say it? I will be killing people morally every day. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I'm at a reunion, somebody says something and I want to turn around and say something that really going to break them. I mean, like really going to break them. But I don't. Why? Because I'm mature enough, first of all, to know that that is not going to help the situation. And second of all, instead of worrying about what that person is saying and how I can shut them off or I can break them or I can say whatever, I go in and say, why am I thinking this? Why is my mind going there? Why is this triggering me enough to feel the impulse to say something? So put the spotlight on you and own it and take responsibility. You have to be in integrity with yourself first before you can be in integrity with nobody else or everybody else.
Absolutely. Okay, Claudia, as we kind of wind up our conversation, one of the things for all our listeners, if you have not picked up on this, she said it several times, and it's so important. Get curious. Get curious. Why are the things that are happening in your life happening? Get curious. Don't just get angry. Don't just be triggered. Get curious. It can change everything. It can shift your perspective. Claudia, you are probably the maven of manifestation. I know you have a course that you're working on right now. Tell us a little bit. I want to know what your go to manifestation process or methodology is. What can you share with us in sort of a snippet of time here?
I think that everything is available already for us. I honestly think that. I just see it as a quantum leap. It's in a different dimension, but it's floating. If you believe that, then you feel that those things are possible for you. It's going from probability to possibility. When you manifest, you can have hope, because hope means that there is a chance that it won't happen. I hope that I get a job, but if I don't get it, this is what I'm going to do. You are already telling the universe that there is a part of you that doesn't believe that's going to happen. We don't get what we want. We get what we are. So when you manifest, you have to manifest from that place that is already available for you. If I manifest right now from where I am right now, I'm probably going to get a little upgrade of where I am right now, because there is still some scarcity, right? But if you manifest from that avatar, from that better self, for that better version that you are, you just don't see it yet. You haven't met her yet, but you know how she is, how she looks, where she works, the friends they have, the car she drives, how she feels, how she reacts. Every decision that you make right now is going to be aligned with that avatar. Not with you. You are a work in process, but everything that you want, it is in the other side of fear. So you just got to think what that woman will do. Would that woman have another drink? Maybe not. Would that woman go to that party? Maybe not. Would that woman go to that meeting? Yes, she would, because she's going to meet this and this person that are going to bring her closer to her goal. So when you manifest, you have to be, not want, but be that you want.
Claudia, sage words. One of the wisest people I know. And for those of you who are listening to this instead of watching it, I hope, first of all, you'll go look at some of the clips that correspond with this episode on IG and Facebook, and then ultimately go look at it up on YouTube. But Claudia is not only a wise and sage woman, she's beautiful from the inside out. She just really is a stunning soul. And I'm grateful to call her a friend. And I would love for you to all go check out her podcast. It's called Don't Shrink to Fit with Claudia Noriega Bernstein. I'll make sure we have the links in the show notes. I also would love for you to go check out her books. She has journals. She's written books. Some of her books are now globally found because she has them in Spanish. She's just done amazing work. And I would love for you to get to know her yourself. You'll consider her your next best friend. Claudia, where can people find you?
And my website is the easiest way. I want to tell you, I was nominated for Women in Podcast. So if they go to my podcast, they'll find the link in the bottom to go and vote for the coaching category. So that would be great if they can do that. I write children's books for difficult subjects. I teach parents to speak about difficult subjects with their kids, about grief, divorce, secrets, bullying. They are in Spanish and English. And they are great tools. I think a lot of the trauma that we have as an adult is because we haven't had the opportunity to digest those feelings as a child. And having those tools really help. So they are in Amazon, most of my books, and they are on my website, which is Claudia Noriega Bernstein.
I'll make sure that we have all the links to her website, the books, and her podcast in the show notes. So I hope that you'll go check it out. Claudia, as always, it's always a pleasure, and it's always an enlightening experience to have a conversation with you. I'm never quite sure what I'm going to learn, but I'm always going to learn something, that's for sure. I love you dearly, and I don't wish for you the best. I know that you are creating this amazing and extraordinary life, and I am so grateful to be along for the ride.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun. Thank you so much, Michelle. I adore you too. And I am so proud of everything you have done. And I know we're going to do amazing things together. And I can't wait to see what's your book going to do. And everybody needs to go and buy that book now.
All right, everyone. Until next time, go and live your extraordinary life. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please take a moment to rate and review. If you have recommendations for future topics, please reach out to me at michelleriosofficial.com. Lastly, please consider supporting this podcast by sharing it. Together, we can reach, inspire, and positively impact more people. Thank you.